Hey guys, it's Carl Brown here from GuitarLessons365.com, and in this lesson I'm going to show you how to play the instrumental version, my instrumental version, of Sweet Child of Mine. So I've already taught Sweet Child of Mine many years ago on YouTube, so that video I will link to it. That'll take care of all the the normal guitar parts that are in the song, all the solos pretty much. What I'm going to be covering in this video are the vocal parts that I'm transcribing for guitar. So we're going to do a lot of vocal stuff. So we're going to start out here. We are actually tuned down a half step like Guns N' Roses did. So in this case, my original Sweet Child lesson I taught in standard just to help you guys out that didn't have the ability to tune down. But for this one, I'm just in the regular tuning of that they did it in a half step down. So make sure you do that. And then we're going to grab this. We're going to learn this first verse here after the intro. So let's take a look at what it sounds like real quick. All right, so the first phrase of that is going to sound like this. So I'm playing here at the 10th fret on the B string a couple times. Then I'm going to bend to that same note. Really, there's going to be lots of bends, little half-step bends, pre-bends, because we're trying to recreate vocal lines here. So if you want to kind of give it that vocal quality, you got to do a lot of bending stuff. Which is great though when you learn to do this vocal stuff on the guitar. It really will help you learn to phrase your own solos and give your own solos kind of a vocal quality as well. You can kind of use these as a guide. All right, so we're going to start there with it, and then bend up from the 8th fret up a whole step. Then 8, 7, 8 up to 10. So this. Now that's that she's got a smile that it seems to me. That's what. So when I go back to this 10, I come over to the 9th fret on the G string and do a pre-bend, a whole step. Release it. Down to 7. All right, from there we have this. All right, so that's just basically right at the 7 on the G from where we left off. Then 8, 7 on the B, back to 7. And now we're going to bend up to that 8 on the B string from the 7th fret, a half step down on the B string. And then pick that note. So we have this. All right, and then after you do that, just play the 8. Now 8, 7. And then you're going to do a bend at the 7th fret of the G string. Whole step, bend and release. So. Alright, so now we're back at the 7th fret here on the G. And we're going to mess around between that and the 7th fret on the B string and doing some half step bends on the 7th fret on the B string. So it sounds like this. So the melody note, we start with the 7th fret on the G string, and then we go to the 7th on the B, bend it up a half step and release. Then we do that again, but this time, after you do the bend, you pick the 7 again. So if you listen to the phrasing and the vocals, you hear that. First time, I'm just going to kind of just do a bend and release, and then the second time, I picked it. And then I do that way again. From there I do this. I bent up a half step from that 7th fret on the B and picked it a few times and released. So far we have this. All right, so that's the first half of the first verse. Then we have this. All right, so that's now and then when I see her face. That's that lyric line. So we have this. It's the same as when we started the verse, the first verse. Except when we make it up to this 10, instead of doing a pre-bend of the 9, you're going to pick the 9 and bend up a whole step. All right, next phrase. All right, so a lot of little bends in there, but you get the hang of it. I think, you know, a lot of this is based around just like 3 or 4 notes. So if you just, you know, keep memorizing that vocal melody and playing it, you'll probably start working this out a lot on your own. So we have this right here. All right, from there we have this. Bend to the 8th fret, then 8, 7, then over to 7 on the G. And then that half step bend at the 7 again on the B string. Pick 7, back to 7 on the G. Then back to the 8s on the B string. Pick it, then do a bend, and then back down. So we have this. All right, from there we have this, if I stare too long. So that's just 7, 8, 7. Then a pre-bend at the 7, release. So you start with a pre-bend, release it, and then bring it back up and down a few times. Then we're going to end this first verse. That's the 7th fret there on the B. I'm sorry, G string, sorry. And then 8th fret on the B. Bend, and then a half step bend and release to the 7th fret. All right, now the first chorus. The chorus melody is a little bit less complicated than the verse. So it sounds like this. I'll just show you a quick example from the original performance. All right, so now that first phrase sounds like this. All right, so I'm just doing a bend at the 8th fret on the B string, then a whole step bend at the 10th fret, then pull off 10 to 8, then pick that 8 again. Then back down to the 7th fret on the B string, half step bend, pick it, then again, bend and release. So therefore we have this. And then the end of the chorus. So that's pretty simple. Sliding 8 to 10 on the B. Pick 10 again, then 8, 7, pre-bend at the 7th. Kind of half step pre-bend. And then over 7, 9, 11. Back down to 7 on the G. All right, then we have Slash's first guitar solo, kind of really first verse solo, I guess you can call it, which I've taught in the other videos, so make sure you check that out. And then we're going to go back to the second verse. So this is what it sounds like in the original performance. so we have more of the verse, a little bit more complicated melody than the chorus, obviously, but it's very similar to the first verse, just slightly different phrasing. So it starts like this. So that's the first couple of lines of the verse. So that's she's got eyes of the bluest skies is where it starts. So we have the 10th fret on the B string there, then the 8th fret bend again behind it, then 8, 7, 8. Now that's the exact same way that the first verse started. Now from this 7, we're going to go 8th fret twice on the B, and then 8, 7, half step bend release at the 7th. All right, and then the next phrase. So this one is pretty much 10th fret on the B, then the 8th fret a few times, and then just bend into that 8th fret. Release, over to 7 on the G, pull off 8 to 7, again on the B, down to 7 on the G. So I think you're probably picking up on where the melody's going. So we have this. Second half of the second verse sounds like this. So we'll stop right there. So we have the 8th fret. So start with the 8th fret bend there. Pick the 8. As it's bent, pick it a few times. Release. Then 7, 8, 10. Then it's a pre-bend there at the 9th fret on the G. So that's, her hair reminds me of a warm, safe place. So that's the. All right, and now we're finishing up the first verse, the second verse here. Sounds like this. So that's the next phrase. So that's a pre-bend at the 7th fret on the B string. Half step, of course. Over to 7 on the G. 8 on the B. Slide to 10. Then pull off 8 to 7 on the B. Over to 7 on the G. And then 10 on the B. So most of that melody right there was built off of the pick 10 and then since it's just between the 7 and the 8 really on the B string, you can just bend up from the 7 to really kind of reproduce the vocal quad. Release it. And then down to 7 on the 8, slide up to 10, then pull off 8 to 7. And that's it. So they're very similar, but as soon as you get used to the melodies of the vocals, I think I'm working out note for note for you, but you'll probably start picking up how to kind of just follow your ear and do it. All right, now the next chorus is slightly different. The second chorus sounds like this. All right, so that first phrase looks like this. So that's kind of similar to the first chorus, you know, pretty much nothing that new. But then we have kind of a high vocal part that goes like this. Kind of finish the second chorus. So we have just slide from 12 to 15 on the B string. If you want, you can do a bend there if you're feeling lucky. Bend up a step and a half, and then whole step bend at the 10th fret on the B string. Pick 10 again. Then you release that 10, so it, and then that's pulling off 8 to 7 on the B. Back to 8, 10, and then you're going to pull off 11 to 9 on the G, slide down to 7. All right, then Slash comes in with his second verse solo, I guess. And then the last chorus hits, and it sounds like this. All right, so the first phrase, very similar to some of the stuff we did before, but he does kind of extend the chorus here when it's building up to the guitar solo. So we have this. All right, so that's just a bend here at the 10th fret on the B again. Then 10, then do the bend at the 8 and release. Then pick 8. Then a couple half step bends at the 7th fret there. Next phrase. All right, so that's picking 8, slide up to 10 on the B, then pull off 8 to 7 twice, over to 7 on the G. Then I do a half step bend and release at the B string on the B string there. Then 7, 9, slide up to 11, back down to 7. So we have this. All right, now he takes the vocal melody a lot higher. Sounds like this. All right, so we had this 10, 12, 15 on the B string, and then a bend and release, and then pick 15 again, and then pull off 15 to 12. Do a bend now at the 14th fret on the G string, and while you do that, grab 15 on the B, then pick that 14 and bring it back down. So it is. I kind of like doing this. So before I do that pull off, I kind of add a pre-bend to it, but yeah, you don't have to do that. It's not really in the song. And then 14 bend again, pull off 14 to 12, and then the bends again at the 14. Pick 14, and end it with the bend. And we're going to end that last chorus with this. All right, so that's a bend at the 10th fret on the B, then 10, 8, bend and release that 7. Then 7, 9, 11, and then bend and release the 9th fret on the G, slide down to 7. All right, so then after Slash's main solo, we have this kind of breakdown section. This is what it sounds like, what I did with the vocals there. All right, so that first phrase is this. All right, so I gotta come in like in the middle of that, but for the whole thing, it would be just like 7/5 on the A string, and then 7/5 on the low E, and then you do the same thing all the way down to 3 on the low E. So read this, and then back to just the 7/5s. All right, and then Axel's lead vocal comes in. So that's just based off a bend on the 7th fret on the D string. Then pull off the 5. So and then do the bends again. Pull back off the 5. Then a long bend. So it's and then pick it, bend again. And I kind of pick it a few times during the bend. Where do we go now? Release the bend, pull off the 5, over to 7 on the A. So all together for that section. All right, so when he keeps going, so I do a bend at the 7th on the D string, and a 4/7 on the G. Then do that bend again. And then do the bend at the 7th fret on the G, back to normal, and then back up with the bend, pre-bend, down to 4 on the G, 7/5 on the D. From there, just go back to the 7. A little bunch of bend and release stuff there, and then we have this. And then when I hit that note, that's back into the Slash's outro guitar solo. So that's when I go back into his part. But that last little vocal melody leading into that. Where do we go now? There's a bend there at the 14th fret on the G string. Then 12 on the high E string, 15, 12 on the B string. Then 14, 12 on the G. And then we're into Slash's outro solo, which has been taught in a different video. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this instrumental version, and for all you guys that can't sing, maybe it's something that you can play live. All right, I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you again soon for GuitarLessons365.com.